They have the 23rd pick. Some Jalen Hurts drama playing out in the media. Over/under win total is 10.5. They've been adding wide receivers, although, A.J. Brown and Howie Roseman says he is an Eagle, doesn't want to hear any more questions. So Tavian Wicks, Hollywood Brown, Reek and Jonathan Jones. Draft picks 23, 54, 68, and 98. Nick, we'll start with you. Eagles step forward or back?
I don't know if this is allowed. Status quo.
That's allowed.
I think they are too talented of a roster to fall off entirely. I think Jalen has proven he can play at least a decent level even when injured. I think Jalen has been banged up at various times the last couple of years, and I know he did miss time a couple games 2 years ago, remember, because they had won 22 games that he started and finished, so he missed a bit of time at the end of the year. I think that they won the Super Bowl. So I think that they are, less likely to have their season submarined by a quarterback injury than most teams. I think that they have immense talent, even with the losses in free agency on both sides of the ball. And I don't think trading A.J. Brown is going to be a huge net negative for him. Now, part of my answer there as far as status quo is, throughout most of last season, I did not consider them a true Super Bowl contender. And I don't look at them next year that I will consider them a true Super Bowl contender. But that, to me, is status quo. Mm-hmm. For folks that thought they could repeat or, go on another run, I guess I'd be saying step back. But that's not where I had them last year to begin with.
So I can see this team taking a step back, and not because they're a bad team, not because I think they're just going to fall off the cliff. I do believe if they lose A.J. Brown, which I don't think they will, but if they
do,
that definitely is a net negative. That's a negative. There's no question about that. But I think the division just is going to be better. The Cowboys aren't going to be 7-9-1. I think they're going to be better. We know what they are offensively. They're going to add to that defense. They already started to look different. Even though they did still give up a lot of scores, they started to look different when Quinnen Williams was on that defense. And so the Commanders, will see what Jaden does.
They're not going to be as bad as they were last year.
They're not going to be as bad. No, I don't think the Giants are going to be as bad. They're going to be another team that can compete. So that's the only reason why. And if they do take a step back, it would be to about 10 wins. So they're just not a bad team.
You and I are in pretty much lockstep, except I do think they're going to lose A.J. Brown post-June 1, and that will be, if you trade A.J. Brown for a draft pick, you are getting worse. And then the Giants are better, the Commanders are better, Dallas is better, and the whole season will be a referendum on Jalen Hurts because he doesn't have much guaranteed money into the future, but you took away a true number one receiver. That's probably going to lead to some distraction and dysfunction. I don't love the Eagles.
All right, let's get into it. I was honestly a second away from cutting Danny off, thinking, yeah, whatever. But looking back, I'm actually grateful I let him finish. So, I'm finally going to record that video I've been mentioning nonstop. I brought it up several times now. Full honesty, I haven't hit record on it yet. As I'm sitting here speaking, it's midnight on a Friday. Go figure. I would have preferred to have filmed it earlier, but now it's looking like Saturday is the day. It's going to be centered on the Eagles, specifically Jalen, Mahomes, Josh Allen, the whole group. I've gathered all the information, all the material. In fact, I've kept adding more layers to it. So honestly, I'm kind of relieved I didn't get around to filming it sooner, because I'll be folding even more into the final version. That video will go live on Monday. Keep an eye out for it, because I am genuinely pumped, seriously, so excited to get this recorded. Maybe I'll end up doing it at 2 in the morning tonight. We'll see how it goes. But first, let me lay out the core idea. For starters, you could absolutely argue that A.J. Brown is on a downward trajectory. He didn't perform well last season. And I'm putting that on him. Sure, there were plenty of things the offensive line could have done better. Same goes for the coaching staff, and even Jalen Hurts himself. But fundamentally, A.J. Brown was not the same player we'd seen before. He simply wasn't. He wasn't winning at the line of scry. Mage. He wasn't making those tough, contested grabs. That version of him just wasn't there, okay? So, if the organization decides to move on from him, like Danny was suggesting, where people say, oh, without A.J. Brown, they're in trouble, and all the pressure falls back on Jalen Hurts, here's what you need to remember. Jalen Hurts has already played without A.J. Brown. You realize that, right? You know that? Even last year, in certain games, and look, they've got Saquon, they've got Devonta, they've got Quez, they've still got Brown. They have pieces they can work with. And again, this upcoming season isn't about whether Jalen Hurts puts up 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. That's not the point. It's about running a well-oiled, high-efficiency offense. A genuinely high-functioning attack. And I firmly believe that with Sean Mannion running things, they'll absolutely be able to achieve that. So whether A.J. Brown is on the roster or not, doesn't bother me in the slightest. Not one bit. Why? Because Devonta Smith is a legitimate number one wide receiver. And this is where I always find the irony really amusing. Think about it. When people want to minimize what the Eagles have accomplished, or downplay Jalen Hurts' role, they say, well, you've got A.J. Brown and Devonta. Two number one receivers, blah blah blah. Then, when they want to trash the Eagles, they flip the script, A.J. Brown is leaving, so what's left? Devonta isn't a true number one. And Saquon, and blah. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, which one is it? Here's what I genuinely want to know. If this team is supposedly so loaded on offense, elite offensive line, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and on, then why wouldn't they still be excellent even after subtracting A.J. Brown? That logic doesn't really hold up. It makes no sense. So if you're going to claim that losing A.J. Brown causes this team to take a real step backward, then you need to explain why you were so confident last year that the roster was so incredibly stacked. And I'm not even talking about 2024, let's talk about 2025. If A.J. Brown was the only reason that roster was considered stacked? Well, that doesn't add up. How could that possibly make sense? It doesn't. Exactly. Here's another thing I find hilarious. Nick hasn't viewed the Eagles as a Super Bowl contender for the last 4 years or so. He's never believed. He's always said, I think they'll stay about the same, because I didn't see them as a Super Bowl team last year, and I don't see it this year. Let's not forget, he didn't think they were a contender in 2022. He didn't think so in 2024 either. In fact, Nick has never considered the Eagles a good team. He didn't see them as a Super Bowl threat in 2017. Every single season the Eagles either went to the Super Bowl or won it, he never thought they were legitimate. Last year, he had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as Super Bowl contenders with Baker Mayfield, and they didn't even make the playoffs. In 2024, he predicted the Eagles wouldn't make the postseason at all. He called them one of the worst teams in the NFL. Those were his exact words. At the end of 2023, he said they were among the absolute worst teams in the league, if not the very worst, and he saw no reason they'd improve or change. Then they went and won the Super Bowl. So there's that. Now, listen. I'm planting my flag right here, right now. I called this last year, and I was exactly right. And here's what I'm saying for this season. People keep saying, oh, the division is going to be so much tougher. But here's my view, across the NFL right now, it's not about greatness, elite performance, or special talent. It's about competency. And competency is at an all-time high. Seriously, an all-time high. I think the best example of this is the AFC West. With the Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, and Chiefs, that division used to be a disaster. Now? I love every coach in that division. Every single one. On both sides of the ball. I love the quarterbacks too. Sure, the Raiders are a bit trickier because of the rookie situation and all that. But still, the Broncos are competent, the Chargers are competent. And yeah, life just got harder for the Chiefs. The Bills now have to deal with the Patriots. Look at the NFC North. The Lions aren't terrible anymore. Even if the Bears regress a little, the Packers aren't terrible. The Vikings? I don't know who their quarterback is or what the story is there, but that'll be a challenge too. So we could go team by team across the whole league and play that same game. We really could. And that's why I think every single top team, every projected division winner, whether it's the Bills, the Ravens, or the Eagles, they're all set at around 10.5 wins. That might have shifted a little now that free agency has happened, but when the schedule first came out and the win totals were being discussed by the media, if I remember correctly, all the top teams were pegged right around 10.5 wins. And I actually think that's very fair. I genuinely believe we're looking at most of these elite teams finishing with roughly 11 or 12 wins. Why? Because I think you're going to see a lot more splitting within divisions. You'll split the tough matchups. When you have to face the Bills, the Ravens, the Eagles, the 49ers, you're not just going to roll over those opponents. You'll trade wins in some of those games. And then it will largely come down to taking care of business against the weaker teams. Even the franchises that are on the rise, say, the Titans or the Raiders, they've got young quarterbacks, young rosters, not quite there yet. If you're a truly great team, you'll win those games more often than not. So here's the thing. I always take issue with this whole step back, step forward narrative, especially when you're talking about a team that's already been successful. Because what does that actually mean? When we say step back, are we strictly talking about the win-loss record mathematically? Because honestly, that doesn't mean anything to me. Not really. So that's exactly where I stand with the Eagles right now. I'm just so optimistic. And to be clear, my optimism is rooted in Sean Mannion. That's what I mean when I say I'm optimistic. It's not just empty positivity. This optimism comes from a real, genuine conviction. It's not hope. It's not wishful thinking. It's the actual conclusion I've arrived at. And that's been my pretty consistent position regarding Sean Mannion. When you give Jalen Hurts a competent, or even great, offensive coordinator, the offense looks fantastic. And Jalen Hurts himself looks fantastic. I don't know if you all realize this, but even in 2024, when his stats weren't eye-popping, Jalen Hurts was outstanding. Let's be crystal clear about that. And even in years when he's had poor coordinators, he still produced top 10 numbers. He still moved the offense. He still made sure his receivers got 1,300, 1,400, at minimum 1,000 yards. He's still gotten the job done. So even if Sean Mannion isn't as brilliant as I believe he is, honestly, it would be very hard for him to be worse than Kevin Patullo. I also believe Jalen Hurts will be actively working on his game, and he will improve, because like every quarterback, he has areas to grow. And I do believe we'll see real development and progress. And if we've already witnessed the lower floor of Jalen Hurts, and now we're about to see a version of Jalen who has genuinely improved, you don't think the Eagles will be better? You don't think the offense will be improved? I don't know, man. I really don't. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? Will they take a step forward or a step back? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Whether you agree with me or disagree, let's start some discussions, get into some debates, but most importantly, let's just have fun. Please consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I truly love seeing you be part of it. I want to create something we all feel connected to, something we're genuinely excited to belong to. I think we're well on our way. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.